Holy fuck, I love Orange George.
What's up, guys? It's George. I'm here to make my version of the Guardian Mage Tower guide to get this sick appearance. It is super sick, but the Mage Tower is not sick. The Mage Tower is very, very difficult, and a lot of people were anticipating it to be very easy. I watched a lot of PTR videos, and a lot has changed, and a lot of people are very unhappily surprised at how difficult it is. But it becomes significantly less difficult with a couple of things. I watched a decent amount of kill videos since reset. I watched Nerf do it, I watched Dorky do it, and they tend to use a slightly different strategy than me. I want to give a big shout out to Arrow Assassin Gaming. They are actually a very small channel that made a kill video that helped me a lot personally, and I'm using sort of their strategy with a little bit of my own. But mostly what I want to get into is all of the things that I brought, and more importantly, a breakdown of my cooldowns. I've seen a lot of videos show kills with little to no talking. I personally want to show you exactly where I used all of my cooldowns and how you can survive every single thing that happens. But to do that, you need the proper build. So obviously up here, normally I show my talents, my conduits, everything like that. A lot of this is unnecessary because a lot of it doesn't work. Your legendaries don't work, your conduits don't work. So you're scaled down to item level 50. And the best gear that you can use is anything with a socket, really. So if you think about it, anything item level 50 and everything item level 250 with the same stat weights are going to give you exactly the same inside the Mage Tower. And the best way to get amped is to use sockets because they give you main stat because you can use old outdated gems. Um, I had a buddy of mine walk into this Mage Tower with about 230 agility in main Shadowlands gear. And with this time walking set, I was sitting around 325, 340. So I had almost 70 main stat on him, which helps a lot. So obviously, as a Guardian Druid, we have sockets on our neck, our wrists, our belt, and our rings. So you can actually take these and pretty much keep them. I use versatility gems everywhere I could. And then every other piece of gear I have that can have a socket does have a socket. So the best thing you can do is you can buy these BOEs, right? So you can buy the crafted Dreadful Gladiators set or the crafted Malevolent Gladiators set. Really doesn't matter, depending on your stat weights. I honestly just bought the cheapest ones because I'm on a very low population server, so I just bought the cheapest ones. And in each of them, I can put this 3 agility gem. Now, there are, I believe, 4 or 5 agility gems. Once again, my low population server did not have them at a very late time in the night, so I did what I could. But it still goes a long way. You see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gems for a total of 24 additional agility. That is a lot. That is the equivalent of having 4 more pieces of gear on. The biggest ones that I would say you really need to focus on are getting the Kraken's Eye of Agility. You can have one of these for 6 agility, and you can also have a Leviathan's Eye of Agility, which gives 7 agility. You can only have one of each of these in, but they're very, very good. If you can get them, you should get them. If you notice too, I actually don't have a meta socket on my helmet, or rather a meta gem in the socket. If you can find one of those on your server, you should, because this will also give a set bonus. But every single one of these will give 3-ish agility, and then sometimes the bonus gives agility, versatility, various stats. It's insane how much raw stats that you can get from going down to these pieces and getting their sockets. I took my gems out of my raid gear to put in these agility gems because they are that good. Other than that, you should have your standard enchants, so you should have your ring, your back, and your chest don't change. But you can get a lot of really old, outdated enchants as well. So this has agility and crit. This has agility on it. This has agility and crit as well. You can pretty much enchant everything, and you can actually even enchant your wrists with an agility enchant if you can get access to item level 50 bracers. In a video that I saw earlier, somebody mentioned the Dream Grove bracers that I will put on the screen now. If you ever played in Legion or did any of the Order Hall, I was honestly too lazy to do it. You can just go back and buy it from a Tree Grove vendor. This character was a Shadowlands baby. I had never played it before Shadowlands, so I had no interest in going back and doing that just for one piece of gear. But if you could do that, you get an extra enchant and an extra gem. Other than that, I strongly recommend using Lightless Force on your weapon. I will post the damage breakdown of everything that all of this did shortly, and Lightless Force is really, really good. It really helps with ad management a lot. The other thing I will say is a lot of people really don't like the Guardian Trinket. A lot of people really don't like Reactive Defense Matrix. I think it is really, really good. It helps with throughput a lot in a fight that you really have to be conservative about your healing because you don't have a lot of borrowed power. You don't have any kind of conduits. You don't have your legendary. You have nothing. So your frenzy regeneration becomes an actual cooldown that you have to manage properly. The throughput healing from this is really good. Mine also happens to have leech on it. So this was really, really good for me. It actually did a decent chunk of my damage and a decent chunk of my healing. And the biggest one, I think, is scale. Now, the only thing that I would say is if you have access to it, once again, this is not, in my opinion, the best build that you can go in with it. If you have access to the Sun King Trinket, the Cheat Death Trinket, it is very strong, very, very strong in the Mage Tower, and it will build you almost enough time to survive 5 Annihilates, which is the biggest part. In this current setup, you can actually only survive 4. But this will give you time to survive 5, which is huge, which is really, really good. I almost have to play super cleanly and do a lot of damage because I cannot have that much time in the second phase. So the only things I would say I would change is if you have the Sun King Trinket, if you have access to bracers that you can enchant, and if you could get a meta gem. Excuse me. Other than that, this is about as good as it gets. I've seen some people using Legion Legendaries, Legion Trinkets. If you want to use that, absolutely more power to you. This is just what I use to kill it. Now, as for talents, I don't think I say that you can properly change any of these and do the same strategy that I did. I've seen a lot of people take Bash. I've seen a lot of people take Incarn and Earth Warden. At the end of the day, there's a lot of different ways to kill it. This is just the way that I found was the easiest. Brambles is absolutely essential. It passively kills pretty much everything, all of the little ads, the big ads in P2. Blood Frenzy is okay. Once again, probably better suited with Incarn or Earth Warden. I just did not do that. I don't think it's very good comparatively. Wild Charge, I don't care what anybody says, this is absolutely essential. I think even in both of my kills that I had to use a Wild Charge. It is so good to get you back on the platform because as much as you want to be the best tank in the world and you want to manage everything, something is going to hit you somewhere, or you're going to want to get it closer to CCD ads or whatever. You need to take this. A lot of discussion on what the best affinity is. I tried a lot of them. I tried all of them actually, and I think Balance Affinity with Heart of the Wild is the only way to go. Typhoon is a good save, but I would never plan on using Typhoon for a number of reasons. One, if you happen to hit the first boss and it knocks him in a weird position, it kind of makes it difficult to manage the whole first phase. But it's a good, okay knockback if you're strictly using it on the casting ads. If you have no more roar or you accidentally roar too early, I think I've done that a billion times. And you just want to get them away from you. They are actually a pretty short range. You can just Typhoon them away and not deal with them. But mostly it's for the damage. Sunfire and Moonfire did almost all of my damage. It allows you to push the first phase very, very quickly with Heart of the Wild, and just generally gives you a lot of damage. It's the same reason you play Galactic Guardian. Once again, I've seen people play Incarn. In my brain, this is a no-brainer. This is not an optional route. Galactic Guardian gives you so much damage, and it gives you so much random survivability because you just proc and you can instantly kill one thing with the proc because everything is scaled so low. Definitely take this. Survival of the Fittest is something we need to take for the way that I planned out my defensive cooldowns, but once again, I've seen people take Earth Warden and do just fine. I would say this is the only road that's personal preference, but if you plan on following my guide, I would definitely say take Survival of the Fittest, and Rend and Tear is really the only viable option in the last row. As for consumes, bunch of weird scaling as well. Heavy Desolate Armor Kit gives pretty much the same stamina as the regular armor kit. I just use this. I just use Shadow Core Oil as well. Same thing, Augment Runes are really good. One biggest thing, only other improvement I would say, if you're going to use a potion, which you should definitely use a potion because you can squeeze out every damage you can, you should use Potions of Unbridled Fury. Potions of Fan of Fire are all that I had available to me, but the on-hit potions proc so often with your Moonfire ticks, and they are so much more damage than Agility Pots. I was using Agility Pots for like 20 pulls when I was trying it the original strategy, and this just did so much more damage. Other thing is Greater Flask of the Currents. This BFA flask actually gives you significantly more agility for whatever reason with the scaling when you get in the Mage Tower. And same thing, Abyssal Healing Potions, despite healing less HP, give you essentially full value when you're in the Mage Tower. As opposed to regular Spiritual Healing Potions do almost nothing. I have no idea why that is, it's just the way it is. So those are the consumes that I went with, and I would say drums are also kind of mandatory. That's about it as far as what I would recommend bringing in to the Mage Tower. And now I will start to get into what I actually do as far as my CDs and a planned strategy. So just a couple of notes that I made before we get into it. I'm sure a lot of people have already watched a different video on how the actual mechanics work, but the fight ends if you die or if your NPCs die, so make sure that you're keeping the ads away from them. Eyes knock you away, just make sure that you look at them when it's happening. The horrors will cast a channel that hurts, you need to CC that, and the infernals will knock you around a lot, just try your best to dodge them. The only thing you should be kicking in phase 1 is Drain Life, and just generally speaking, try not to spend too much time in the puddle. In P2, which is essentially the entire fight, that is a race against the clock where you just have to be doing as much damage as you can, and you cannot get nervous and use any of your cooldowns at the wrong time. You need to pre-plan your cooldowns, you need to pre-plan your orbs, and you need to know exactly where you're going to use them, which is the point of this video. Same horrors, no eyes, try your best to dodge infernals, but generally speaking, you will kill this boss if you can stay calm, you can manage your ads, and you can manage your cooldowns, both your defensives and your CC, in addition to the orbs. So for those of you that are interested, this was my plan. I think it's really important to have a plan to go into encounters as stressful and difficult as these. So like I said, I've seen a lot of videos where people have talked about the mechanics of the fight. Personally, this is exactly what I used to kill the boss twice in the first day. So now I'm just going to review very quickly my kill video. This is actually not my first kill. If you notice in the video, I'm going to have the werebear already because I am stupid and I did not turn on my stream to record the first one. But I think this one was much cleaner anyway, so might as well just get into it. So if you'll notice, first thing, I do not pull the boss in the corner like a lot of people do. I like to keep it directly in the center. And for me, I just found that this was easier for kiting. And on pull, I just pop heart, I enter eclipse, I get my dots up, and I just pump. So this whole first phase is a dance, right? It's just between Moonkin, Bear, right? Looking at the eyes when you can. Notice I don't do anything more than just pop a Moonfire on them. You don't even need to waste more than a global. It will die. Kick Inquisitor whenever he's doing it. And the number one thing that you need to know about this phase is, actually rather two things. Whenever you cast Regrowth in Moonkin form, it actually snaps all of the aggro the adds to you. So that is very helpful. So you can just sit here, you watch me just pretty much sitting in Moonkin form the whole time, DPSing, and I will cast Regrowth on myself at the beginning of those ads coming out to bring them all to me. And then I'll use one of my preset cooldowns to survive it, and you roar at the very end of the cast into the channel. Right, so these ads are coming in. You see now I'm in bear form. I wait until the last second, boom, roar. If you roar early, they will cast again. So you can't let them get a tick or two off because you'll die instantly, but you can't do it too early. It has to be very quick. Another thing that I do differently that a lot of people don't seem to like to do is I actually do like to dot up the Infernals. I don't do more than a Starfire, or sorry, Moonfire, Sunfire, but I do hit them still. One Moonfire on the eye, cast Regrowth, and then they all come into me. It's a little dance. It's the same thing over and over again. Um, Roar at the last second. For me, I do have pre-planned cooldowns for this phase. I have them in the note that I will also put in the description, but I don't know how necessary I really think P1 cooldowns are. Personally, it made my life a lot easier to keep it consistent, but that's just me. So now I'm going into P2, right? And another thing that I will mention is those eyes will despawn. So any eyes that you have going into P2, you notice I'm probably a little bit tired because this is my second kill and I've been doing this all night. But I go to target this and it just despawns. You don't have to worry about it. The one thing you do have to worry about is if you have the horrors up or the infernals up. So I have it 2 infernals respawning. That's not the end of the world. But the horrors really throw off your cooldown. So my push timing seemed to be pretty consistent by the end of the night. I would say just get comfortable with whatever you're doing and play around that, but make sure you're going into this boss cleanly. And you'll notice the second he comes down and I get into melee range, I pop Phantom Fire, I pop Drums, I pop Berserk, and I am going to town, right? I keep these Infernals relatively close to each other. I wait, I stutter, I bait the frontal, and for the first Annihilate, I do absolutely nothing. I had like 2 stacks of fur, I don't pop a health pot, I don't pop a wall, nothing, not even bark skin, right? First set of ads comes out, I'm still not popping anything. Nothing. I pop bark skin once everything gets in, and I wait, and I do the last second roar again, and by the time I'm done, they're all dead. Second Annihilate's about to happen, and you'll watch, I do, once again, absolutely nothing. I pop 2 stacks of fur, and I just roll my Frenzy into it, and I'm totally fine. The boss is already relatively low, and I still have not used an orb yet in the fight. Not one. It's all about control. So I dodge the smash, and right here, if I go back for a second, right here I notice, because of my timings, that when these ads come in, I am bad at rewinding, bro. When these ads come in, my roar is not up for 6 seconds. And I'm very low, and I haven't used an orb yet, and the boss is really low. So rather than dealing with the mechanics of dodging and roaring and trying to get out of range and whatever, I just hit an orb. I let myself drop a little bit and try to squeeze out as much damage as possible. And I hit an orb to stall for my roar. This means the Infernals are not going to be knocking me away. I'm not going to be annihilating. This gives me a reset, right? And then, when the horrors start casting again, they're already relatively low HP. I'm just moving in a circle at this point so that these things don't hit me, right? And one does anyway, right? I managed to get the roar off in the air, right? Because I did it early, but that was more luck than anything. So they're not going to start casting again for a second. I see this Annihilate coming, right? And my third Annihilate is Survival Instincts. But because I got knocked away, and because I was not able to properly damage these things, I'm very low HP. So even a 50% wall is not going to help me. So I realize that and I adapt. So this is coming in 0.6 seconds. These are casting. I don't have a roar. My wall's not going to save me. I have to use an orb. So I use an orb and it resets. These ads are dead, Mino, and he's still going to do it. So one thing to note is roaring, if you choose to play the bash build and you mighty bash cruel, you get an orb, does not stop that annihilate, it only delays it. So I know it's still coming. I pop my wall and I roll a frenzy into it and I'm totally fine. Making sure I kick the boss, and you notice it's super clean. There's no ads anywhere because I keep everything grouped and I AoE it down. I think kiting them is so much more difficult than just cleaving them. So now the boss is really low. I still have 2 orbs. I haven't even used my second wall yet. This boss is as good as dead, right? So I come in, I just get an orb instantly to stun the Annihilate, buy some time. Second comes along, I roar it, and then I just use my third ad anyway, and now I know he's going to cast Annihilate again, so I'm getting ready to pop my 4th wall. So I pop my second stack, and this boss is dead. I had an extra orb just left over. If you see, though, there is no way in this strategy to survive 5 annihilates. There is no way. Every cooldown I have available to me is on cooldown. So it's very pre-planned. It's very scripted. But in my opinion, I killed this boss in about 4 minutes. I've seen kill videos where people are taking 8 minutes because they spend 4 minutes plus alone in the first phase. Once again, that's fine. It's a totally viable strategy. But to me, this is just what I found worked best. Here is my damage breakdown. If you notice, Moonfire is obviously most of my damage, but Phantom Fire did a boatload of damage. Potions of Unbridled Fury would do more than that. And the Guardian Trinket actually did a decent amount of damage throughout the fight. Lightless Force also a decent amount of damage. This is my overall healing breakdown. As you can see, one Abyssal Healing Potion actually healed me for 5.1k. That is a lot. And the Guardian Trinket actually healed me significantly more than the scale itself did. The leech on the trinket was also very, very good. And Brambles is insane. This is my damage breakdown to Cruel himself, which I consider to be most of the fight. If you notice, Guardian Trinket, Lightless Force, and whatnot down here did very little damage, but Phantom Fire did a lot of damage. Potions of Unbridled Fury would do a lot more here. And if you have that, you should definitely use it. And here is just the overall.